If you're a single spiritual woman and you've been dating New Age men and been getting increasingly frustrated and questioning your own sanity about whether there's something wrong with you and you're just not cut out for relationships, then this video really is for you. I spent years in the New Age community struggling to find the connection that I craved, until I realized that I was not looking out for red flags about bad behavior that come up commonly in these circles. I had an alternative title for this video, which was How to Date Spiritual People Without Losing Your Sanity, because that's really what I experienced. I really struggled to understand whether it was me or it was the people I was dating. I didn't know what was going wrong and if I was just being too sensitive to their behavior or not. And it took me some time to get some distance and to realize that yeah, I'm a sensitive person, but I wasn't being too sensitive. I was just overlooking bad behavior because it came under a spiritual label. So in terms of the red flags when it comes to New Age men, I think of this as a dark triad. So the 3 points of the triangle are manipulation, addiction, and psychosis. So let's start with manipulation. I think that is the most common bad behavior I've seen in New Age men. So manipulation often comes in the form of using spiritual language to make you feel wrong, to dismiss your feelings, to gaslight you in a way, to dismiss the reality that you're seeing playing out in front of you. And they're not always going to be aware that that's what they're doing because they're so indoctrinated into this language and how it's used. And often what's happening underneath is there's trauma, attachment wounds, undiagnosed mental health problems that are actually driving this behavior. And it's really because they're not comfortable with you and the unpredictability or the emotions or the perceived criticism you might be presenting to them. And so their only way of shutting down that criticism or shutting down those uncomfortable emotions that you're presenting is to, in a way, spiritually shame you. So it's to bring spiritual concepts or ideas to make you feel bad for showing up in the way that you're showing up. And it feels manipulative because it can be quite confusing because perhaps the emotion or the feedback you're having is a very valid need or valid response in the situation. And the lack of compassion they're showing you can be a bit of a shock. So one very common example and the kind of language someone might use on you is to say, well, that's your trigger, that's your emotions, it's got nothing to do with me. Now that's a very common phrase that's being used to deny any accountability. And really, of course it's your emotions and of course it's your trigger. But if someone says that to you, basically they're saying, I don't care how you feel and I don't care how my behavior is hurting you. They're not showing you any empathy or compassion or even curiosity to understand your experience and to understand how the dynamic in the relationship might be affecting you. So that's a good sign that that person is just uncomfortable with emotions and might not have the relationship skills that you would need to have a healthy, mature adult relationship with. The second point on the dark triad is addiction. Now this one really surprised me. Before I started dating New Age men, I wasn't aware of how much addiction really was an issue for people, and particularly for a lot of men. And there's nothing wrong with having suffered from an addiction, but the problem in New Age communities is that often it hasn't been treated. They haven't actually had therapy or they don't go to AA, and they sort of justify it or frame it as something that's actually positive or manageable. That's the red flag you're looking for. So I was really surprised that there was a lot of drug use in New Age communities and a lot of it considered spiritual because it had maybe some sort of positive effects on giving someone insights or calming down their nervous system. And over time, I realized that was just an excuse and it was used to validate unhealthy behavior and to make you feel unspiritual for not supporting it. But be mindful for how much this person you're about to see or spend time with is actually engaging in these activities and whether they seem to have a healthy relationship to it or they have more of a compulsive feeling where they're actually not okay unless they're planning their next experience. And I also was surprised that people that maybe had a history with certain types of drug use were not necessarily regularly engaging in that, but had shifted it to things like more kind of spiritual activities like yoga or water cleanses. But the red flag to look out for is extremism. So when someone's taking a very extreme approach, like doing a water fast and then going straight and eating like 5 burgers and kind of yo-yoing back and forth between these extreme approaches instead of integrating something in a kind of more moderate, healthy way into their life. And don't be convinced by any spiritual rhetoric that a certain thing is good because it has some positive effects in certain contexts. It's all about context, really. It's about how much that person needs to use it to feel okay. So where addiction and manipulation connect is that if someone is currently using a substance in an addictive way, they're going to have to revert to manipulating you in order to convince you you're the insane one when you start observing and getting worried about their unhealthy behavior. So the third point of the dark triad is psychosis. And this often shows up as a spiritual psychosis, which means there are spiritual themes that are influencing how someone has a break from reality. So if someone is suffering from psychosis, they might actually feel like that they're better than you or better than other people. So you might find them saying things like, oh, well, I've just been doing this longer than you. I'm more evolved. I can see things that you can't. I've got this special gift or healing ability that you don't. Or they might include you in the fold and be talking about them. Oh, they're not as good as us. Like, we're the special ones. We're going to heal the world. Things like that. But what usually you'll notice is along with the superiority will be insecurities. So you might also observe them being a little bit feeling inferior to other people. So maybe they'll be like trying to do things to get people to like them. And of course, when someone is going through psychosis, they will never admit to any insecurities. So that's another red flag where they don't have any flaws, they don't have any problems to work on. They're just so much more elevated and enlightened than everyone else. Another sign of psychosis is if someone is quite emotionally detached. So they don't feel sad or happy or joyful or angry or any feelings, and they're very detached from you and your feelings as well. And in order to stay detached, they tend to focus on spiritual activities like meditation, psychedelics, things that are going to help them transcend and like stay above their emotions because that's very uncomfortable for them. You might also see with psychosis people engaging with conspiracy theories in an unhealthy way. So the point where addiction and psychosis meets is that psychosis is usually triggered by drug use. So if you are dating someone that's using a lot of drugs, then they might go through these periodic moments of psychosis. And these episodes could last from anywhere from a couple of hours to weeks or even months. And I think some people kind of get stuck in psychosis for years even, where they're just completely lost touch with who they are and what's going on in their experience. And the point where psychosis and manipulation meet, when someone is going through psychosis, they're 100% on manipulation. That's the only way they can keep this false narrative going, is if they go to a lot of effort to kind of convince and persuade everyone of that their reality in their head is actually the real reality going on. So of course someone can have an addiction problem or be manipulative without being in psychosis, but the three qualities tend to reinforce each other. It's really difficult, I'd say actually impossible from my experience, to be in a relationship with someone that's exhibiting these dark triad qualities. The only really way to avoid this is to really be mindful of these red flags that I've mentioned. And you probably have other things that you notice when you're dating someone that you have a feeling is unhealthy. Most of the time we actually know, we get gut instinct, we get intuition, our body doesn't feel safe around this person anymore. So it's really about trusting that there are safe people out there. There are people that will share your vision and your values, and just have the courage to walk away when someone is displaying these qualities. It's really important to take these warning signs seriously, because the longer you're in a relationship, the more damage to yourself, to your self-esteem, to your self-trust, to your ability to be open and loving is going to happen. And the longer it's going to take you to recover and to be open to someone that is in a more healthy position and that's actually available for a relationship. And that's really what I want for you, because I know what it's like to suffer and feel confused and to be assuming that you're the one doing something wrong, and you're not. And this person is just going through a difficult period, and you do not want those behaviors to end up damaging your sense of self and your hope for the future. You're definitely not helping that person by continuing to stay in the relationship, and you need to protect your own sanity, your own self-esteem, and most importantly, your own self-trust from being damaged by staying too long in an unhealthy relationship.